I'll begin, Commissioner.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is November 15th, and this is a meeting of the Administrative and Regulatory Committee of the Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County. Today, we will be looking at two items on our agenda. First, we will approve minutes from our last meeting, and then we will look at housing resources rental amounts for voucher payments for the coming year. So I'd like to start by asking if there is a motion that we approve the minutes from our June 25th, 2021 meeting, which was the last meeting of this committee.
So moved, Commissioner
Thank you.
Crum.
Thank you, Commissioner Crum. I will second. All those in favor of approving the minutes of the Legislative and Regulatory Committee meeting of June 25th, 2021, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it's unanimous. The minutes are approved. I would now like to turn to the substantive topic for today's meeting, and that is a discussion of the voucher payment standards for the coming year based on HUD's fiscal year 2022 small area fair market rents. And I'd like to ask Lynn Hayes to introduce the topic for us.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Lynn Hayes, the Director of the Housing Resources Division. We are requesting permission to implement or authorize voucher payment standards based on the HUD published FY 2022 small area fair market rents. In October of this year, HUD published the fair market rents for use in determining the voucher payment standards for the Housing Choice Voucher Program. The voucher payment standards represent the maximum amount of subsidy that HOC can pay a private landlord on behalf of a Housing Choice Voucher customer. The voucher payment standards are determined by HOC, and they can range anywhere from 90% to 110% of the published fair market rents. Historically, HUD published one fair market rent for all of Montgomery County. However, on January 1st or effective January 1st of 2018, HUD required the mandatory use of small area fair market rents for 24 designated metropolitan areas. Montgomery County is within one of the 24 designated metropolitan areas required to use small area fair market rents. Small area fair market rents are FMRs for specific zip codes according to bedroom size within the metropolitan area. Small area fair market rents represent neighborhood rents more accurately than metro level fair market rents and allow HCV or Housing Choice Voucher customers greater access to higher opportunity areas. This year, staff is recommending voucher payment standards to be 110% of the published fair market rents or of the small area fair market rents. If adopted, this will allow our customers to reduce rent burden for many of our families. Additionally, it will allow them greater opportunity to high opportunity areas. We will be able to adopt these payment standards within our program funding level and reducing our Housing Choice Voucher reserve balance. Kashif Paul, Giddy Paul, and Frederick Polis all worked in collaboration to determine the recommended amounts, and they will walk you through the methodology used and the financial impact of these values. So I'm going to turn it over to Giddy Paul to begin.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is Giddy maybe on mute?
Giddy, are you there?
She's there, but
Hello?
Hi, now we can hear you. Thank you, Giddy.
Okay. Sorry about that. I am unable to share my screen.
We have the presentation up. Could someone else do the sharing?
Okay. for you.
I got it. Thank you so much. Is it visible to everyone?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioner. Good afternoon, everyone.
Can you adjust your volume up, please?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
My name is Giddy Paul. I'm the management analyst for HRD. As Lynn mentioned, HUD publishes the FMR annually for our jurisdiction for 5-bedroom sizes from 0 to 4 bedroom. There are 71 zip codes in Montgomery County. Overall, we analyzed 355 different FMR values to determine our payment standards. Historically, we suggested the payment standards in congruence with the FMR while attempting to alleviate rent burden for our families. This year, we used Solver, an Excel feature, to automate a heavily manual process. We added constraints of 90 to 110% and requested that the function find us the best solution to assist our families and relieve rent burden. We currently have 38 zip codes in which our families reside out of the 71 zip codes in Montgomery County, leaving 33 zip codes unoccupied. 0-bedroom sizes were the most positively impacted with increases in the FMR this year. As many as 51 zip codes experienced dollar increases. 0-bedroom sizes experienced $10 to $120 increases, followed by 1 and 2-bedroom sizes. Gaithersburg, 20882, experienced the largest increases across the board, with all bedroom sizes experiencing increases. For illustration purposes, we've provided the top increases in bedroom size and zip codes. This year, we saw more decreases than increases in our FMR. 4-bedroom sizes were the most negatively impacted, with as many as 62 zip codes experiencing decreases. The decreases in the 4-bedroom sizes ranged from $10 to $350, followed by 3-bedroom sizes. Cabin Branch, where we don't have any families at the moment, experienced the largest decrease in FMR. Though this slide indicates that we have over 80% families in 1, 2, and 3-bedroom sizes, we actually have a little bit over 90% of our families in 1 to 3-bedroom sizes. Currently, with the drop in the FMR and 56 of the zip codes with 3 bedrooms, 1,252 of our families would potentially be negatively impacted by the FMR. Of our 38 zip codes occupied, 90% of our families reside in 15 of those zip codes, or 7 corresponding cities. Similar to previous years, Silver Spring is in the lead with the most families. Conversely, we have the fewest families in 3% with 3% in the least concentrated areas. To the right of each bar, we've provided the number of families residing in each of those areas. There are also areas where zip codes and cities overlap. For instance, to the left of the screen, you'll notice that for Silver Spring, we have 5 zip codes. So Silver Spring would be considered the submarket of 5 zip codes listed up top, which would be 20901, 20902, 20904, 20906, and 20910. To the right of your screen, you'll notice that Gaithersburg would be the submarket for 2 of our zip codes, which would be 20882 and 20885.
Would you prefer that we ask questions during the presentation or wait
Sure.
until the end? Okay.
Okay.
I'm curious, I believe you said that there would be 1,252 families negatively impacted by the decrease in market rates
Potentially.
or potentially. What happens if in fact a family is in a unit where the small area rent has decreased below what is currently being charged by that landlord? What happens to their portion of the payment, which I believe would still stay at 30%? And what happens with our portion? And can you talk about those scenarios? That's a
So-
lot of families.
Yeah. In those instances where the small area FMR would be reduced, it would be applied at, so for those existing families at their second annual recertification subsequent to that new rate. So it's not an instantaneous change, but really 2 years after. And families have the option to move. In most instances, they do. But if the payment standard were to decrease, there are, I guess, very variable instances. If it were to decrease and the current rent exceeded the voucher payment standard, that family would be rent burnt, and they could potentially pay 30% of their adjusted income plus any difference that exceeds the payment standard amount. So,
I see. And
yeah.
what happens if the small area rents go back up again before the second annual recertification?
It's applied at the following annual recertification. This is a juggling, these are great questions, a juggling ask for our staff to monitor them, to know when to apply the right values or the right rates. Annually, when we adopt the new voucher payment standards, we send letters, we're required to all of our Housing Choice Voucher customers to let them know what the new rates are and when they're applicable. And so there's verbiage in those letters telling them that if their payment standards decrease, it would be at that second annual recertification. If they opt to move, then the payment standard that is approved at that time in the particular zip code is what would be applicable, regardless of whether or not it's increased or decreased.
Okay. Okay, that's helpful to know. My second question is, you mentioned that there are 30 zip codes in which we have no residents. Does that mean that there are no vouchers issued within those 30 zip codes?
33, yes.
33, okay. Is that because we don't have landlords who are participating in those zip codes? Or can you tell me more about, that's approximately half the number of zip codes in the county, and I'm curious about that.
Right.
That seems like a lot to not have any vouchers in half the county.
Right. Some of the top places that we don't have families are like Glen Echo, Cabin Branch, Bethesda, Chevy Chase. We do not have landlords or tenants there. I am not clear, or we haven't done the research to see exactly why we don't have parties there. But we've noticed that these high opportunity areas, we essentially haven't been able to get our families in past years, whether our payment standards have been too low or the FMR hasn't been something that we could raise to the standard that a landlord would feel comfortable with renting to our individuals.
I think it's a combination of many things. The first thing is a landlord can't deny a voucher holder renting to someone simply because they have a voucher. So I don't know that it's not necessarily there are no landlords within those zip codes. I think some of the rents are not affordable, which is why we're recommending these new payment standards. Some is a matter of choice. People tend to live where, what they know and where their network of available family and physicians and friends are, but it's a combination. And so our hope is that by raising these voucher payment standards, more families will branch out into some of these zip codes where they are high opportunity areas, where they have better access to schools and to jobs and transportation and, you know, lower crime rates, all of the kind of perks that are available to them. In our voucher briefings, we do show them a map of the low poverty areas in the county and the high high poverty areas as well. And so I think we should maybe stress on this a little bit more, and the advantages of moving to, you know, one of these areas that are not currently occupied.
Okay,
Lynn,
Yes,
can I ask this?
Sure.
Can we get some type of some type of paper that shows the low poverty areas? Because we really don't know. I don't know. I'm not
Sure.
going to say we.
Yeah.
I don't know, and I also would like to know where do most of our residents live? Is
Okay.
it? Yeah, I like to know where do
Yeah,
most of our residents live.
yeah, I'm not sure, Giddy, if she got to that part yet, but most of our residents are in Silver Spring. 20904 is a very heavily populated zip code. And then also, was it Gaither? It's Germantown or
Germantown.
Germantown. Most, so within those two cities, that's where most of our families tend to reside, in Germantown and Silver Spring.
Thank you.
Sure.
thank you.
So here we wanted to illustrate the top 15 zip codes with our families who are rent burdened. We notice here that Germantown has 170 families rent burden, followed by Silver Spring in 20904. Families that are typically rent burden on average are paying 25% over their rent burden, over their adjusted income of 30%, totaling about 55% of their adjusted income. After assessing several percentile values ranging from 90 to 110%, assuming a landlord increase of 1.4% based on the Montgomery County Rent Increase Guidelines, we are proposing the implementation of 110% of the FMR across the board for all bedroom sizes and zip codes. This implementation would allow us to decrease the rent burden for families from 21% to 10% of our population, preventing rent burden for 90% of our families. Currently, the 1.4% of the Montgomery County Rent Guideline has been extended through May of 2022. We've provided a sensitivity analysis illustrating various scenarios in which a landlord could submit a rent increase exceeding the 1.4% through 5% and how this would impact our families. Kashif, my colleague, will briefly discuss the financial impact on this slide.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kashif, and I'm the financial analyst of Housing Resources Division. By implementing these recommended voucher payment standards, will increase our expenses, including an overall increase of 7.6% to our current per unit cost. 110% of the FMR would allow us to reduce our reserve balance to $6.5 million, leaving only $1.1 million at risk of being recaptured by HUD. Per HUD guidelines, we should not have more than 5% to our annual budget in reserves. Calendar year 2022, we projected an annual budget authority of $106 million. This would mean the reserve balance should be $5.3 million. All other percentile values assessed on the FMR leaves a risk of recapturing by HUD up to 12.5% in this slide. Giddy?
Adopting 110% of the FMR for our voucher payment standards will allow us to reduce the rent burden in 31 of our 34 zip codes experiencing rent burden. Removing rent burden altogether in up to 8 of our zip codes.
All right, in this slide, we project HOC is able to financially sustain the recommended voucher payment standards. Currently, we have $10.4 million in our HUD held reserves. We are anticipated to have another $106.5 million in our ABA, which is Annual Budget Authority for calendar year 2022. We will add additional 349 units to our utilization over the year, which contributes to an increase to the expenses. Our goal is to reduce our HUD held reserves HHR to $6.5 million. Gradually, this gradual increase in our expenses is based on our, we can use these recommended voucher payment standards only on the new admissions and also the recertifications we do every month. It's approximately about 600 families we do a recertification every month. So it's going to be a gradual increase in our expenses. It's not going to be a direct increase overall. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to ask.
You may be getting to this later in the presentation, but how many people are on our waiting list right now?
Approximately 40,000.
40,000. Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
sure. So Giddy, did you want to share with them the other two enclosures? So along with these slides, we had a comparison chart that shows the voucher payment standards that are currently in place in comparison with the recommended payment standards for 2022. Additionally, we have a handout that we give our customers and staff so they know what the payment standards are once adopted by each zip code. Can you get it?
On mute also.
So she's pulling up the two additional handouts that were included with the packet items.
While she's doing that, I'll go back to my question about the zip codes that we don't have any voucher residents in right now. I'm imagining that a fair amount of that is availability of rental to begin with in those zip codes versus home ownership. I was just thinking about 20904, and I happen to live in that zip code, and there's a lot of rental available in 20904, whereas in some of the zips, I am sure there is minimal rental available. It'd be interesting at some point, and I know it's not like you all don't have anything to do, but to see the number of rental units available by zip code compared to some of this, to see, as I think about what can we do to help make more of the county available to our voucher population. There's no point in banging your head against a cement wall if there's no rental in a zip code. trying to put people into it. But if there is, and particularly the increase in building along, say, the 270, 355 corridor, maybe we could do some additional efforts with landlords and some outreach there. But I think it'd be worth just looking at the data first.
Sure. I too live in zip code 20904. So, so I agree with you. I think and I don't have, you know, definitive numbers for you, but I know just my experience has been, I think there are units available in some of these other zip codes. And so I was trying to get some data, which I was unable to, from our rental market analyst, regarding the number of families that submit requests for tenancy approval forms that are turned down because the rents are not affordable. So that's one thing. I know we've had a significant amount. And then secondly, we have many families who, as we are working feverishly to increase our program utilization, we've selected, I want to say, just shy of 1,800 families from the wait list this year. And as we are issuing vouchers to those families, many request extensions or additional time on their voucher to seek units because they are having difficulties relative to the affordability. So I don't have a percentage to give you right now, but I know
Sure.
that it's occurring because I'm the one who approves the extensions. But in terms of denials, right, we have rental market analysts who work in our inspection services team who, you know, negotiate rents with landlords all the time. And so it is, you know, an everyday occurrence, I would say.
Yeah, it would just be interesting to see that eventually. I am sure the increase in purchase costs is not going to help because any new rentals coming on the market, anybody that is purchasing at today's prices is not going to be putting them on the market for rental at less than what we have been seeing in the past. So the problem may get worse before it gets better, but just whatever we are able to do with data that you guys come across in terms of looking at the number of rentals available versus how our voucher population is spread and what efforts we might be able to do to
Sure.
to move further into the county would be great.
We will certainly work to gather that information.
Okay, thanks.
Lynn, I just
Yeah.
wanted to ask one question.
Sure.
Bethesda. Now, is that one of what zip code would the Bethesda be?
So
I
Giddy
can't see. This is too small for me. I
yeah,
can't
has
I'm
put
so sorry.
the comparison chart. And so Bethesda zip code 20816 and 20817 and 20814. So it looks like there are 3 zip codes and we don't have that many families there.
Okay,
And one of
that was
her,
the question.
in her prior slide, I believe she had the number, Giddy was Bethesda in the lowest 15 zip codes.
Yep. Yes.
So, yeah, so if she can go back to that slide or just highlight for you the number of families in Bethesda. But so in the slide where she had the top 15, where it shows where most of our families are, she also had the lowest 15 zip codes where not many of our families, and Bethesda was one of the cities where
Are
not.
you able to see my PowerPoint or no?
It's kind of
Oh,
small.
Yeah,
but-
right now we have the comparison, Gideon. So-
Okay.
Right, that's a comparison.
So
Right.
there were 151 families. No, that's Burtonsville, sorry.
Sorry, Bethesda has 11 families and 20816.
Yeah,
I
11.
am attempting to switch between the PowerPoint and my PDF file, and it's not working unless I actually stop sharing each time.
Oh,
So
okay.
Okay.
Do you want to finish going over this then and we can go
Yeah.
back to Linda's question? Is that all right with you, Linda?
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
okay. So first here we have a comparison chart of what we used for our voucher payment standards in 2021, what we are proposing for 2022, and the dollar differences. And all of this, again, is 110% maxing out our FMRs. Okay. Are you able to see the second? Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
This is quite
And
clear.
This is what we typically give out to our families. It also includes the grouping of a few zip codes and cities that typically have the same voucher payment standards. So we kind of group them together. This is also it makes the data entry process into Yardi a little more simpler as well.
So basically the standards are the same for these color-coded groups.
Correct. Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to stop sharing this and bring us back to the PowerPoint.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Okay. And Commissioner Kroom, I believe you were asking which zip code or how many families we currently have in
Yeah.
Bethesda, which is 11. So I have that highlighted right here for you. And the city corresponding, of course, to the zip code.
Okay, thank you. I needed to see that.
You're welcome. All right.
Okay.
So I'm just going to zip through a little bit for us, bring us to the summary.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, we are recommending voucher payment standards to be established at 110% of the published small area fair market rents for all of our zip codes and all of our bedroom sizes. We are asking for the Administrative and Regulatory Committee to join our recommendation to the Commission. If adopted, again, we do not apply these rates simultaneously at the same time. They're applied for newly admitted applicants immediately or for existing families who move to another area or zip code, and then they're applied at the annual recertification subsequent to the Commission approval. We will send a notification to all of our families notifying them of the new amounts if adopted. If adopted, we anticipate that our expenses will increase. However, we can incur these increased expenses through our HUD held reserves. Our goal is that HUD does not recapture any of the reserve balance. So we would be able to adopt these amounts within our program financial structure. Annually, HUD funds us based on the prior year, what we spent. So they look at our expenditures and then award us our annual budget authority based on the prior year spending plus a proration adjustment factor. So we anticipate by spending more money, eventually we'll get more money the following year. We also have shared our recommendations with the CFO and budget officer who were in agreement with these recommendations. And so we are asking you to join us in approving the voucher payment standards for fiscal year 2022 at 110% of the published small area fair market rents for Montgomery County.
Okay, thank you. This was a very interesting and helpful presentation. Before Commissioner Kroom and I move to a motion and a vote, since I noticed that Commissioner Simon was attending as an observer, I'd like to invite her, if she has any questions, to ask questions as well, even though she is not a voting member of the committee. Is Commissioner Simon have any questions she would like to ask?
No, I just think the observation is high that in many of the low zip codes, they're in the agricultural reserve where minimum lot sizes are 25 acres and the cost of land and housing is extraordinary and the density is low. So I think that's an additional correlation that explains why, and it's a third of our county land area is in the agricultural reserve. So that answers that geographic void, I think, partially at least. And am so appreciative of this presentation. I think it's one of the best we've seen for a long time in its graphic. It's easy to understand, and kudos to the staff for putting this together. It's the access to this information is critical to us, and it's wonderful that we're getting it in a way that's very clear. Thank you.
Thank
That's
you so
great.
much.
That appreciate the observations about the agricultural reserve, and maybe next year we'll want to somehow note those zip codes or pull them out for one show or something like that, because you're right, 25 acres is, as a minimum size, is going to be tough to make it into what we are doing with vouchers. Thank you, appreciate that, Commissioner Simon. So with that, I would invite a motion that this committee endorse staff's work and their recommendations in terms of moving this forward to the full commission for consideration.
So moved.
Okay, I will second it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So this committee recommends joins you in the recommendation to the full commission that we move to 110% of the fair market value as our standards, as you have noted for the various zip codes. And thank you. I also want to tell you, as a data nerd, how much I appreciate what you went through to be able to present this so clearly to us. So
Thank you
thank you
so
very
much.
much.
Thank you.
And with that, there being no further business, I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very
you.
much,
you.
guys. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.